I thought we were building a life together, until one push at a party revealed her lies. Drenched in ice and betrayal, I uncovered a web of deceit that changed everything. This is the story of how I took back my life, one truth at a time. Welcome to Reddit Confessions. Ethan adjusted the playlist on his phone, the thumping bass of a country rock mixed blending with the chatter of 30 guests at Jake's Austin backyard barbecue. Smoke from the grill curled into the warm Texas evening, and the string lights swayed above the picnic tables. Ethan, a 32-year-old high school teacher, grinned as he caught sight of his wife, Mia, spinning with her friend Lauren near the fire pit. Her laugh carried over the crowd, sharp and bright. And for a moment, Ethan felt a surge of pride. 5 years married, and she still lit up any room. He swapped out a lukewarm playlist track for something livelier, earning a thumbs up from Jake, the host, who was flipping burgers in a tie-dye shirt. Ethan thrived in these moments, making sure the vibe was right, checking the cooler for ice, ensuring everyone had a drink. It was his way of showing care, even if Mia teased him for being the responsible one. Tonight, though, her teasing felt distant. She hadn't glanced his way in over an hour. Ethan grabbed a soda and leaned against a picnic table, scanning the crowd. Mia was now huddled with Lauren and Tara, their heads close, their giggles sharp. He caught fragments of their conversation over the music. "Bet you won't," Tara whispered, her voice low but clear. Lauren smirked. $100, says she does. Mia's eyes flicked toward Ethan, then away, her smile tightening. "Watch me," she said, tossing her hair. Ethan's stomach twisted, but he brushed it off. Just drunk talk, he told himself. Mia loved a good prank, always had. Last year, she'd hidden his car keys at a friend's wedding, laughing when he panicked before his speech. Harmless, she'd called it. He took a sip of his soda, focusing on the music, but the unease lingered like a bad note. The party pulsed on. Jake called for a toast, and Mia raised her glass, clinking it with Lauren's and Tara's. She swayed to the beat, her movements loose, deliberate. Ethan watched her dance with Lauren for 2 songs, her laughter louder than the speakers. He started toward the cooler for a beer, but as he bent to grab one, 2 hands slammed into his back. He stumbled forward, crashing into the plastic cooler. Ice, beer cans, and lemon slices spilled across his jeans, soaking him to the skin. The backyard went silent for a split second, then erupted in laughter. Tara shrieked. She did it. Lauren fanned herself, grinning like she'd won the lottery. Mia took a mock bow, her eyes gleaming with something Ethan couldn't name. He stood, dripping, a stray lemon slice stuck to his elbow. The crowd's laughter rang in his ears, but Mia's gaze held no warmth, just a flicker of triumph. Ethan forced a smile, gripping the beer can he'd caught mid-fall. "Good one," he said, his voice steady despite the heat rising in his chest. Mia shrugged, already turning back to her friends. "Lighten up, babe," she called over her shoulder. The party resumed, conversations buzzing, but Ethan felt like he was underwater, every sound muffled, every glance sharper. He wiped his hands on a napkin, the words live, laugh, love printed in curling script. The irony stung. He scanned the crowd. Jake was back at the grill, oblivious. Lauren and Tara were whispering again, their eyes darting his way. Mia didn't look back. Ethan's smile faded. This wasn't a prank. It was a performance, and he was the punchline. He walked to the edge of the yard, away from the fire pit's glow, and sat on a folding chair. His wet jeans clung to his legs, but he didn't care. His mind replayed Mia's shove, the bet, the way her friends egged her on. She hadn't pushed him for a laugh. She'd done it because she knew he'd take it. Because he always did. The time she rolled her eyes when he got choked up during a movie. The way she'd sigh when he asked about her late nights at work. Small cuts, piling up, unnoticed until now. Ethan pulled out his phone, pretending to check the playlist, but his fingers hovered over Mia's contact. He wanted to call her out, right there, in front of everyone. But what would that do? She'd laugh, call him dramatic, and the party would move on. Instead, he opened their shared calendar app, a habit from their early days when they planned date nights. A new entry caught his eye. Coffee with R, 10 p.m. Tomorrow. No last name, no context. Ethan's thumb froze. Mia didn't drink coffee past noon. He glanced at her across the yard. She was leaning against Tara, whispering, her glass empty. Ethan stood, his decision made. He wouldn't confront her here, not with her audience watching. He slipped through the gate, the music fading behind him, and started the 2-mile walk home. The night air was warm, but his soaked clothes made him shiver. Each step felt heavier, not from the water, but from a truth he couldn't ignore. Mia hadn't just humiliated him. She'd stopped caring if he noticed. By the time he reached their apartment, a modest second-floor unit in East Austin, his shoes squelched with every step. He didn't bother changing, just sank onto the couch. His phone buzzed. Mia's name lit up the screen. "Babe, where'd you go?" "It was just a joke." "Chill." Ethan stared at the word chill. It wasn't an apology. It was a command. He set the phone face down and closed his eyes, the memory of her shove replaying. Something had shifted tonight, not just in her, but in him. He wasn't sure what came next, but he knew one thing. He was done playing her game. Ethan woke to the buzz of his phone at 3 a.m., the screen glowing with a voicemail from an unknown number. He hesitated, expecting spam, but played it. A man's voice, low and urgent, crackled through. "Hey, Ethan, it's Ryan. I know this is out of nowhere, but we need to talk. She lied to us both." The message cut off abruptly, leaving silence that felt heavier than the night before. Ethan replayed it twice, his pulse quickening. Who was Ryan, and what lies was he talking about? He didn't sleep again. By 6 a.m., he was at the kitchen table, their shared laptop open. Mia was still out, likely crashing at Lawrence. Ethan scrolled through their calendar app again, zeroing in on the entry. Coffee with R, 10 p.m. He cross-checked Mia's Venmo. 3 payments to Ryan K. Over the past month, $50 each, labeled dinner or drinks. Ethan's jaw tightened. Mia never mentioned Ryan. He searched the name online, landing on a realtor's profile. Ryan Kinsey, 40, based in downtown Austin. The photo showed a confident smile, nothing like the shaken voice from the voicemail. Ethan's fingers hovered over the keyboard. He logged into their shared cloud drive, a relic from when they planned their honeymoon. Most folders held tax docs or old photos, but one, buried under miscellaneous, was password protected. Mia's usual passwords, birthdays, pet names, failed. On a hunch, he tried live, laugh, love, the phrase from the party napkin. It worked. Inside were screenshots of Instagram DMs between Mia and Ryan. Flirty messages, late-night plans, a photo of them at a rooftop bar. One message from Mia read, "He's clueless, don't worry." Ethan's stomach churned. He wasn't just a punchline, he was a blind spot. He kept digging. Another file held a group chat screenshot, labeled Squad. Lauren and Tara were in it, joking about Ethan's teacher vibes and how he'd never suspect. Mia's reply, "He's too busy grading papers to notice." Ethan's hand shook as he saved the files to a USB drive. He needed proof, not just for himself, but for whatever came next. His phone buzzed again, Mia's text. "Home soon. You over it yet?" He didn't respond. Instead, he dialed the voicemail number. Straight to voicemail. "Ryan, it's Ethan. Call me back. I'm listening." By noon, Mia walked in, keys jingling, her makeup smudged from the night before. She dropped her purse on the counter and sighed. "You're still sulking?" she said, pouring coffee. Ethan closed the laptop, his voice calm but firm. "Who's Ryan?" Mia froze, her mug halfway to her lips. "What?" she said too quickly. Ethan held up his phone, showing the Venmo payments. 3 dinners, Mia, with a guy you never mentioned." Her eyes narrowed. "You're snooping now? That's low, even for you." "Answer the question," Ethan pressed. Mia set the mug down hard, liquid sloshing. "He's a client. Work stuff. You're making this a thing when it's nothing." Ethan leaned forward. "Then why is he leaving me voicemails saying you lied to us both?" Mia's composure cracked, her hand gripping the counter. "You're paranoid," she snapped. "It was a stupid prank at the party, and now you're inventing conspiracies." She grabbed her purse and stormed to the bedroom, slamming the door. Ethan didn't follow. He opened a laptop again, finding another file on the cloud drive, a scanned receipt for a hotel stay 2 weeks ago, charged to Mia's card, with Ryan's name on the guest list. Ethan's breath caught. This wasn't a one-off. He emailed the evidence to himself, then grabbed his keys. He needed air, answers, anything to stop the room from closing in. He drove to a coffee shop downtown, the one Mia frequented for work meetings. Sitting in a corner booth, he texted Ryan again. "Name a place." "I'm ready to talk." An hour later, Ryan replied, "Rigsby Motel parking lot, 7:30 p.m. Come alone." Ethan's grip tightened on his phone. The location felt like a setup, but he couldn't back out now. He spent the afternoon piecing together more clues. Mia's phone, left unlocked once last month, had shown a notification from Ryan. Miss you already. Ethan had ignored it then, chalking it up to a friend. Now it burned. He checked their home security app, rarely used since Mia claimed the camera was broken. One clip, auto-uploaded last week, showed Mia in the kitchen, laughing, pouring wine for a man who wasn't Ethan. The timestamp matched a night she'd said she was at a conference. At 7:30 p.m., Ethan pulled into the Rigsby motel lot, the neon sign flickering above. A black SUV rolled in, headlights off. A tall man stepped out. Ryan, in a leather jacket, his posture tense. "You're Ethan," he said, voice low. Ethan nodded. "You're Ryan." Ryan exhaled, leaning against his car. "I didn't know, man. She told me you were her roommate, some guy she was helping out after a breakup. Said you were just friends." Ethan's chest tightened. "Roommate?" he repeated. Ryan nodded, pulling out his phone. "Look at this." He showed text from Mia. "Ethan's cool. Just need the place to crash for a bit." Another. "He's not my type, don't worry." Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. "We've been married 5 years." Ryan's face fell. "She never said." "I swear." He scrolled to another message, dated yesterday. "Need space for me. Can I stay with you?" Ethan's mind raced. Mia wasn't just cheating. She was rewriting his entire existence. Ryan's next words hit harder. "I ended it 2 days ago. Found out she's been seeing someone else. Some guy named Cole." Ethan drove home in a daze, Ryan's words echoing. Cole. Another name, another lie. He didn't confront Mia that night. She wasn't even home. Instead, he sat at the kitchen table, the USB drive in his hand, the weight of her betrayal sinking in. She hadn't just humiliated him at the party. She'd built a double life, and he was the only one who hadn't seen it. But now he did, and he wasn't going to let her control the story anymore. Ethan sat his car outside their East Austin apartment, the engine off, the USB drive of evidence burning a hole in his pocket. It was 8 a.m., and Mia hadn't come home since storming out yesterday. Ryan's revelation about Cole, the third man, gnawed at him, a coworker Mia had never mentioned, despite her late-night client dinners. Ethan's phone pinged with a new notification from their bank app, a $200 withdrawal from their joint account, timestamped 2 a.m., at a gas station near Zilker Park. Mia didn't drive that far for gas. He dialed Ryan again, who answered on the first ring. "You find anything?" Ryan asked, his voice clipped. Ethan gripped the steering wheel. "She's spending our money, and I need to know about Cole." Ryan paused, then said, "Meet me at the storage place off I-35, Unit 47. I've got something to show you." Noon. Ethan agreed, his mind racing. A storage unit? Mia never mentioned one. He drove to a hardware store, bought a bolt cutter, and headed to the address Ryan sent. The storage facility was a maze of rusted metal doors under a glaring sun. Ryan was already there, leaning against a chain-link fence, holding a key card. "She gave me this months ago," Ryan said, handing it over. Said it was for her old furniture. Ethan swiped the card, and the lock clicked open. Inside Unit 47, boxes were stacked neatly, labeled with Mia's handwriting. Books, winter stuff. But one box, unmarked, sat apart. Ethan pried it open with a bolt cutter, revealing a leather-bound photo album embossed with M+L. Not his initial. He flipped it open. The first page showed Mia, younger, beaming beside a man in a pilot's uniform. Liam, according to a handwritten note. First trip to Miami with L, 2018. Ethan's breath caught. That was a year before they met. Page after page showed vacations, handwritten postcards, and boarding passes. One note read, "Liam promised we'd settle in Denver after his last tour." The dates overlapped with their engagement. Ethan's hands shook as he reached the final item, an unopened letter addressed to Mia, postmarked 6 months before their wedding. Ryan read over his shoulder. "That's him, Liam. She ghosted him, too." Ethan tore open the letter. Liam's words were raw, desperate. "Mia, you said you needed time, but you stopped answering. Did I mean anything? You said Denver was our future. I left my job for you." Ethan's vision blurred. Mia hadn't just cheated. She'd built a pattern, discarding men when they no longer serve her story. Ryan's voice broke the silence. "I found this unit when she asked me to store some boxes. I didn't know what was in them until last week." Ethan pocketed the letter and closed the album. "She's doing it again with Cole," he said. Ryan nodded. "He's her co-worker, some marketing guy. I saw texts on her phone. Same lie she told me about you." Ethan's mind clicked. The bank withdrawal, the late-night meetings. He pulled up their smart home app, scrolling to a security clip from 3 days ago. Mia and a man, Cole, presumably, sat on their couch, his arm around her, her laughter casual, intimate. The timestamp matched a night she'd claimed to be at a team-building retreat. Ethan drove to Mia's office, a sleek co-working space downtown. He didn't plan to confront her yet, but he needed to see Cole. At the front desk, he asked for Mia, saying he was dropping off her lunch. The receptionist pointed to a glass-walled meeting room where Mia sat across from a man in his late 30s, their heads close over a laptop. Ethan recognized him from LinkedIn, Cole Harper, senior strategist. Mia's hand brushed Cole's, lingering too long. Ethan turned away, his chest tight, but his resolve hardening. He texted Ryan, "Found Cole. I'm done waiting." Back at the apartment, Ethan gathered more evidence. He printed the bank withdrawal receipt, saved the security clip, and emailed everything to a lawyer friend, Sarah, who specialized in family law. Sarah called within an hour. "Your prenup's solid," she said. "If she's hiding assets or cheating, you've got leverage. Start documenting everything." Ethan spent the afternoon doing just that. Screenshots of Mia's Venmo to Cole, emails about work trips, and the storage unit findings. He felt like a detective in his own life, piecing together a betrayal he'd been too trusting to see. Mia walked in at 7 p.m., her purse slung over her shoulder, acting as if nothing had changed. "Long day," she said, kicking off her shoes. Ethan stood at the kitchen counter, the photo album and letter in front of him. "We need to talk," he said, his voice steady. Mia's eyes flicked to the album, her posture stiffening. "What's that?" she asked, though her tone suggested she knew. Ethan slid it toward her. "Your past. And your present. Liam, Ryan, Cole. How many others, Mia?" She laughed, sharp and forced. "You're obsessed. That's old stuff from before you." Ethan held up the letter. "This was during our engagement. And Cole, he's not old news." Mia's face paled, but she doubled down. "You're twisting everything. Cole's a colleague. You're pathetic, digging through my things." Ethan didn't flinch. "I met Ryan. He showed me the storage unit. And I saw you with Cole today." Mia's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, she had no comeback. Ethan stepped closer, his voice low. "You didn't just lie to me. You erased me. Made me the roommate in your story while you played house with whoever's next." Mia's eyes darted to the door, but she didn't move. "You're blowing this out of proportion," she said, weaker now. Ethan placed the USB drive beside the album. "This is everything, texts, receipts, videos. I'm done being your cover." He walked to the bedroom, grabbed a duffel bag, and started packing. Mia followed, her voice rising. "You're leaving? Over this?" Ethan zipped the bag. "You left first. I'm just catching up." He walked out, her protests fading behind him. In his car, he drove south, toward Galveston, where a friend had a spare room. The road stretched dark and quiet, but Ethan's mind was clear. Mia's lies had unraveled, and he was ready to face whatever came next, starting with the truth. Ethan pulled into Galveston at midnight, the salty air sharp through his car window. His friend's spare room above a bookstore was bare, just a mattress and a lamp, but it felt like a sanctuary. He dropped his duffel bag and sat on the floor, the USB drive of evidence still in his pocket. Mia's text started coming an hour later. "You're overreacting. Let's talk." Then, "I didn't mean for this to happen." Ethan ignored them, powering off his phone. He needed space to think, not her scripted apologies. The next morning, he met Sarah, his lawyer friend, at a beachfront diner. She slid a coffee across the table and reviewed the files Ethan sent. "You've got enough for a clean divorce," she said, tapping her pen on a notepad. "The prenup protects your savings, and her infidelity, documented here, means no alimony." Ethan nodded, his jaw tight. "I don't want revenge, just out." Sarah scribbled a plan. File for divorce, freeze joint accounts, and notify Mia's employer about her misuse of work trips. "It's not petty," Sarah said. "It's accountability." Ethan spent the day acting on her advice. He called the bank, locking the joint account after confirming another unauthorized withdrawal. Mia, $300 at a bar downtown. He emailed HR at Mia's company, attaching receipts and timestamps of her work trips with Cole. By afternoon, he'd rented a studio apartment in Galveston, a small space with a view of the Gulf. He moved in with just his clothes and a laptop, signing up to teach math at a local community center. The job was part-time, no bureaucracy, just kids eager to learn. Ryan texted around 3 p.m. Heard from Cole. He didn't know about you either. Mia's spinning the same story. Ethan replied, meet me tomorrow. I need to know everything. That evening, Ethan walked the beach, the waves crashing steadily. He didn't feel free yet, just unmoored, like a boat cut loose in a storm. But the evidence, texts, receipts, the album, kept him grounded. Mia's lies weren't his fault, and he wouldn't carry them anymore. The next day, Ryan met Ethan at a Galveston coffee shop, a quiet spot with wobbly tables. Ryan slid over a USB stick of his own, screenshots of Mia's text to Cole, calling Ethan her temporary roommate and planning a weekend getaway. Cole's pissed, Ryan said. He thought he was exclusive. Dumped her yesterday when I showed him this. Ethan plugged the USB into his laptop, scanning the messages. Mia had told Cole she was stuck with Ethan until her lease ended. The audacity made Ethan's stomach turn, but it also clarified his next move. He called Mia from the coffee shop, putting her on speaker so Ryan could hear. I'm filing for divorce, Ethan said, his voice even. Mia laughed, dismissive. You're bluffing. You can't afford to leave me. Ethan listed the evidence, Venmo payments, hotel receipts, the security clip, Liam's letter. Your HR got the same files this morning, he added. Mia's tone shifted, panicked. You're ruining my life over a mistake. Ethan cut her off. You ruined your own. I'm just done cleaning up. He hung up, Ryan nodding in quiet approval. Back at his studio, Ethan opened his laptop and found an email from Mia's HR. Investigation opened into expense account misuse. Thank you for your report. He exhaled, a weight lifting. Mia's lies were catching up to her. He texted Jake, the barbecue host, attaching the group chat screenshots where Lauren and Tara mocked him. Jake replied instantly, didn't know, man. They're out of my circle now. Ethan felt a pang of relief. His old life wasn't all gone, just the parts that needed to be. That night, Mia sent a final text. I'm staying at Lawrence. You win. Happy? Ethan didn't respond. Instead, he walked to the community center where his first class was setting up. A dozen teens shuffled in, notebooks ready. Ethan introduced himself, cracked a joke about fractions, and felt the room warm with their laughter. For the first time in months, he wasn't playing a role someone else wrote. He was just Ethan, teaching, breathing, rebuilding. The next morning, Sarah called with an update. Mia's lawyer reached out. She's not contesting the divorce. Wants it quick. Ethan agreed, signing the initial papers by noon. He drove to the storage unit one last time, dropping off the photo album in a donation bin. Liam's letter, though, he kept, not for sentiment, but as a reminder. He wasn't Mia's first victim, but he'd be her last. As he walked away, his phone buzzed, Ryan again. Cole's talking to HR too. Mia is suspended. Ethan didn't smile, but he felt a quiet resolve. The truth was out, and he was moving forward. By week's end, Ethan's new routine took shape. Mornings at the community center, afternoons grading papers by the beach, evenings writing in a notebook he hadn't touched since college. He jotted down ideas for a book, not about Mia, but about second chances. He wasn't healed, not yet, but he was building something new, piece by piece, on his own terms. Ethan stood at the edge of a Galveston pier, the divorce papers signed and mailed, the ocean stretching endless before him. 3 months had passed since he left Mia, and his new life in the coastal town was taking root. His studio apartment, small but his own, hummed with the rhythm of his days, teaching, writing, and long walks along the shore. Today, he carried Liam's letter in his pocket, a final tether to the past he was ready to release. His phone buzzed with a message from Sarah, his lawyer. Divorce finalized. Mia is settled without a fight. You're free. Ethan exhaled, the weight of 5 years dissolving into the salty air. He'd expected relief, but a quiet ache lingered, not for Mia, but for the version of himself who'd believed in her. He walked to a nearby cafe, where he'd agreed to meet Ryan one last time. Ryan, now a strange ally, had texted yesterday, insisting on sharing new information. At the cafe, Ryan slid into the booth, his usual leather jacket swapped for a plain hoodie. Mia's gone, he said, stirring his coffee. Left Austin last week. No one knows where. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Her job. Ryan shook his head. Fired. HR found she'd faked expense reports for trips with Cole. Lauren and Tara cut her off too, didn't like their texts going public. Ethan nodded, unsurprised. Mia's charm had always relied on control, and without it, her world unraveled. Ryan leaned forward, sliding a folded paper across the table. Found this in her old email, one she didn't know I had access to. It's about you. Ethan unfolded it, a draft of an email Mia never sent, dated a week after the barbecue. Ethan's too good for this. I'll tell him soon, but I need Cole to commit first. The confession, raw and unfiltered, confirmed what Ethan already knew. He'd been a placeholder, a safety net until her next plan solidified. He folded the paper and tucked it beside Liam's letter. Thanks, he told Ryan. This closes it. Ethan left the cafe and drove to the community center, where his evening class waited. The teens, a mix of shy and boisterous, greeted him with fist bumps. He taught them algebra, using real-world problems like budgeting for a road trip, and their engagement grounded him. After class, a student, Maya, lingered. You seem happier lately, she said. Ethan smiled. Getting there. He didn't elaborate, but her words sparked something. He was no longer the man who smiled through humiliation. That night, Ethan attended an open mic at a local bookstore, a venue he'd discovered through a flyer. He'd signed up on a whim, wanted to share his story, not for pity, but to reclaim it. Standing under a dim spotlight, he spoke to a small crowd. I trusted someone who used me, he began, voice steady. She pushed me into a cooler for a laugh, but it woke me up. I found lies, a double life, and a pattern of betrayal. I didn't fight back with anger. I fought with truth. The crowd listened, rapt, as he described the storage unit, Ryan's voicemail, and Mia's unraveling. The hardest part wasn't leaving, he finished. It was realizing I'd let myself disappear. Don't make that mistake. A few clapped, others nodded. A woman in the back, a stranger, approached afterward. I've been there, she said. Your story helped. Ethan thanked her, feeling a purpose he hadn't known in years. He walked home under a starry sky, the letter and email in his pocket. At his apartment, he burned them in a small metal tin on the balcony, watching the ashes drift away. The act wasn't dramatic, just final. The next day, Ethan got a call from Jake, the barbecue host who'd stayed in touch. Heard Mia's in Dallas, starting over, Jake said. She's telling people you were the problem. Ethan laughed, not bitterly, but freely. Let her. I'm done with her story. He hung up and opened his notebook, adding to the book he'd started, a guide on recognizing manipulation drawn from his own scars. Each word felt like a step forward, not away from pain, but towards something stronger. By month's end, Ethan's classes at the community center expanded, with parents requesting private tutoring. He leased a better apartment, one with a desk for writing. Ryan texted occasionally, updating him on Cole, who'd left Mia after learning the truth. Ethan didn't dwell on it. Mia's consequences were hers to carry. Instead, he focused on his students, his book, and small acts of reclaiming himself. Calling his sister for long chats, singing off-key in his car, reading novels late into the night. One evening, Ethan returned to the pier, the same spot where he'd stood after the divorce. He pulled out his phone and recorded a short video for the Open Mix online page. If someone's mask slips, trust what you see, he said to the camera, waves crashing behind him. You're not the problem for noticing. You're the solution for acting. He posted it, not expecting much, but by morning, it had hundreds of views, comments pouring in from strangers sharing their own betrayals. Ethan read them, not as wounds, but as connections. He didn't feel triumphant, just steady. Mia's lies had cost him years, but they'd also led him here, to a life he chose, not one he was handed. As he locked his apartment door and headed to teach, he knew the real victory wasn't her downfall, but his beginning.